So, neither of these shows were great, but surprisingly, like, I put this Supergirl on, and I was gonna go to bed. I didn't want to watch it. I didn't think it would be interesting at all.
Right?
Yeah. So I was like, I got it out, so James could read or whatever while he watches. But anyway.
Or fall asleep. Or any combination
so,
of those.
I mean, I'll borrow almost anything from the library if it's a DVD, because, I mean, if James falls asleep to it, whatever.
Yeah. It just replaces TV. You got no ads,
Yeah.
Or you got the preview trailers, whatever. But
it's like company.
It's a little bit. The dogs kind of like it too, Yeah. Puts them to sleep, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. But to my surprise, I watched the whole documentary.
Me too.
And it was shocking. What James said was, this is worse than toddlers and tiaras, sort of thing. And really,
it is way worse.
I mean, you could see that the family, they seem to be a loving family and everything. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, like, right away when I saw sure, this girl's interested in lifting, and I understand that. I remember when my nephew, he was just a little kid, and he was showing me how strong he was, how much he could lift, and I said, yes, you're very strong, but maybe you should wait until you're done growing before you're lifting stuff like that. It can be dangerous. So, and honestly, one of the first things I said to James with this on was, I would never let my child do that, but once you let them, how do you stop them, right? So then, I mean, she's winning, she's beating these, I mean, there's no muscle, it looks like, when she's young. She's just skinny little arms, skinny little legs, and she's lifting huge amounts of weight, and
stuff I never could have been. I was something.
Nobody could ever expect that, right? But, and so then James is saying, I wonder if there's a difference between muscle tissue or something before puberty, after puberty, or what, right? That, because here, I mean, she's beating 44-year-old women at these lifting competitions when she's 9 years old, and they look huge. They're very muscular, and she is just this scrawny little, right? Where is this power coming from? So anyway, and I mean, you might be looking at it another way, like they were showing her, like how they were Orthodox Jews, and so you could think, oh well, the power is coming from God, but why? And then, if so, then why is she getting the migraines later on, right? Because obviously it's taking a toll on her.
Well, it could be other things.
It could be.
And
her mother thought magnesium, so she started giving magnesium, and it seemed to help. But the fact of the matter is, it was the weight training the lifting itself
there
that was causing.
There seemed to be a correlation, because eventually they were saying 2 weeks after she took up training, she was starting to have migraines again, where they were getting
within a couple days she'd get the headaches again. So
sorry, it wasn't 2 weeks, it's 2 days.
Yeah,
it's a little early in the morning for me. It's not that early, but it's early for me.
All right,
so they say it's an uplifting experience. I think I figured out it's appalling seeing the doctors, they're feeding her some sort of painkiller or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the first
saying, well, you should get back to school or whatever, and it's like, with the migraines like that, really? How is she going to concentrate on anything? Why bother?
Well,
so she could sit there and take painkillers?
So honestly, they had her sit off for 3 weeks. No, it's supposed to be 6 weeks, and
school,
but they said it was 3 months.
They wanted, one doctor told her to get off the weight stuff for 3 months and see if it helps, and they sat off for a little while.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, I thought the husband knew what was happening, but they had her doing, I don't know how much build-up time, but you could see, I said, she tore a muscle. right? A hamstring. Remember how she just grabbed kind of the upper part of the back of the leg. And I was asking, she wasn't really grabbing her butt because it would be unusual to, the thinner the muscle is, the more likely you are to pull it, right? And the gluteus maximus might be the biggest muscle in the body. You know how you got to be careful about your sources. I've had people say that. So you're less likely to pull it. And so you're more likely to pull your hamstring because I think it's smaller than the quadricep. You can pull your quadricep, and that's awful.
Yeah.
But I was saying, the way it went, I'm willing to say she tore it. And sure enough, she said it popped, right?
Yeah.
When you pull a muscle, it usually doesn't feel as though it's popped. But I tore a muscle once, and it was awful, awful, awful. So they had her come back too soon, or they let her come back too soon, right? Too strongly, too soon.
I mean, it'd be very hard to stop a child at that point. Once they have, she has this bonding experience with her father, where her father's really proud of her, her mother's encouraging her, and she's winning. Yeah. So, all of those things together, how are you going to stop her at that point, right? And, it's incredible. So, some people would watch this and go, oh, well, women can be so strong, and then they could think, well, I could do that then if she can do it, and I could take on any guy and whatever, and I could protect myself. But no, at the end, she's not doing as well, and she's injuring herself more. So something...
Well, the big problem is it was over 200 pounds on her wee little shoulders, starting, I think she was over 200 pounds when she was 10. Yeah. She wasn't weighing that. She was like 97 pounds for the longest period of time, under 97. So 10, and I think she started having trouble when she was 12 or 13. So there were two types of lifts she seemed to be doing. One was a lift, like just holding the weights like this, lifting it off the floor, and basically an extension from the, so this is for the quadriceps basically. So she just going from a squat coming like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what was causing the problem.
No.
The other one was she'd come under a bar. The thing was elevated. She'd come under it, and then
bar was across her back.
She'd have to lift it from her shoulder. Is that what it was? So, no, she had to squat with it. She squatted with it, and then she had to come up there. Yeah, exactly. And so the problem is that was you could just see it because she was told, put your neck like this, right?
Yeah.
Mine says when you go like this with your back, it's bad for your back. I suspect it's the same thing with a neck. Yeah. So remember, it's about the first thing I said when she was having migraines. I was saying it's her neck, right? Because if you screw up your neck badly, you're gonna have horrible, horrible headaches, right? Now, I'm not saying this is what happened in her case, but that should be the prime suspect.
It should be, but it could be a number of other things. It might not be the neck at all. It might be just a lot of the times you can get problems just with your hormones. Just if your hormones are all messed up, then it'll cause problems elsewhere in the body. And perhaps it's not sensible for a girl who's went into puberty and then there's a lot going on there until age 25, really developmentally.
Yeah.
Developmental.
I'm going to say this. I think they're good parents, but there have been good parents who had daughters in gymnastics. Yeah. They were doing it in Eastern Europe a lot. Yeah. You'd see this girl, Nadia Comaneci. She wasn't developing secondary sex characteristics like wide hips and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they had a way of slowing down puberty. Yeah. Because kids, especially girls, they have a better strength to weight ratio. Yeah. Once women start, putting on extra fat by comparison with men or by comparison with kids, then they start to lose that strength to weight ratio. I'm just wondering if they were giving her some stuff to delay the onset of puberty. I can't see them doing
it. They were, because she was growing taller. Mm-hmm. They kept her weight down so she could compete in the lower weight class, even though she was growing taller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had her too thin.
Too thin. Anyway.
What happens, the tragedy was, she didn't have a backup, really, some other thing that she could be interested in,
Yeah.
succeed in. And it's just too bad because they seem so nice.
Yeah.
One of the things I said, boy, I'd love to see a gang of thugs try to take that guy on because
Yeah.
he looked like a wimp.
Him with his daughter, you know, he has these glasses, and I mean, she
Right.
looks rake thin and whatever, but I mean,
Him and his daughter and his son eventually was in weightlifting. I'd love
Yeah.
to see him because if they didn't have arms, they'd just get crushed.
yeah.
You know, I'd love to see it.
I meant for you to put the parsley on your sandwich. You don't want to?
Kind of makes it hard to eat, so I just,
Okay.
no, it's good. It's healthy, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, good. I just worry you're not going to eat the parsley and
well,
we'll
I've been
see it on
eating
the
a
plate
little bit.
later and
Yeah,
be
people
sad.
at home have seen it.
Okay. So I didn't care for this movie at all. I don't know what you thought about it.
Actually, well, I found it hard to sympathize with the guy because he reminded me of the main guy with the spiky hair. He reminded me of a guy I used to play soccer with. Now, this guy was Irish, or
Yeah.
portraying someone as Irish. The guy I couldn't stand was Welsh, but
Oh.
I gotta admit, I'm a lot of Irish, I'm a lot of Celtic, but so many people, I just can't stand a lot of Irish people. I can't stand a lot of Welsh people. Welsh people tend to be into teasing. So do Irish people. Scottish people, not so much. A lot of Scottish people I can't stand. I've got a lot of Scottish in me. I shouldn't say too much about Welsh people because, you know, John Lennon's Welsh. Eh?
I didn't know if you wanted the
Half
soup,
Welsh.
but I gave it to you.
No, I'm going to have it. So.
Okay. I tried to
Just
put
waiting
the
for it
thing
to
on-
cool down.
It's
It'll cool down.
right now.
Okay.
It probably cooled
Okay.
right when I got the stuff out because it's so cold
Okay,
out
I
here.
know.
Nice pattern of ice on the table though. Looks great.
It'd be cool if you could make a table like that. Maybe someone's thought
Yeah,
of it already.
somebody
An
probably
ice, glass ice.
Okay, so I'm going to
Okay.
talk a little more about A Foodie's Guide to Capitalism here. Page 150. Where did capitalism find the savings necessary for a decrease in wages? He asks. In the reproductive, domestic caregiving work of women. This caregiving carried out by women has a value to capitalist production because it maintains the labor force, the source of labor power. This largely explains the capitalist turn from the exploitation of women as factory workers to their exploitation as full-time housewives. Mechanization shifted women's activities out of the field and into domestic reproductive work. Seriously, I write in brackets? I don't know what kind of fictional world he is looking at to come to this conclusion.
They used to be employed as factory workers along with kids.
Mm-hmm.
But then the capitalist, there were enough of them. They allowed a certain degree of democracy, and they made that illegal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what he's saying is that was cynical, isn't it?
No, he's saying that the capitalists actually want the women exploited as full-time housewives so
Exactly.
that they can, yeah.
So what
Which,
he's
no.
saying is that movement in capitalism had happened, let's say in the 1830s or something like that, away from exploiting women and children in factories was cynical. But you see, the women, women, their own class of women, they weren't. Were they producing kids? Yeah, they were, but they weren't. They were just critters of leisure. They'd sit at home and they'd have servants and maids, and the boys would be sent off to so-called public school. It's really private school and stuff like that. So
Yeah, but then if you look further past in history, sure, you look at that time, and then you look at the war era when the women were back in the factories and the men were fighting, and then when the men came back, there was a capitalism actually wanted to keep women out of the household. They don't want women at home. They want women buying. That's what capitalists want, is they want to sell. You are a walking wallet to them. So it's not that they want you for labor. They can use machines for labor. And machines, honestly, if they're well made and functioning properly, they're a lot less work to keep than a lot of workers. So why they just want you giving your money to them.
Yeah.
So they need you to make enough money so that you can give it to them. That is what they want.
where there's been capitalism, if they're there to produce children, they'd want a high birth rate. But wherever capitalism has taken over, there might be the occasional exception, the birth rate has gone down, 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 down. Capitalism is not about slavery. Pauline's absolutely right. It's about machines. The slavery of the machine actually frees people up. Societies that are into slavery love having a high birth rate. So this is just wrong-headed, but it's important to go through it. You know what I'm saying?
It is. It's important to look at people who lie.
Starting with themselves, intellectual dishonesty.
Maria Mies wrote about patriarchal oppression and figures that it isn't the result of universal sexism, but is a consequence of the capitalist mode of production, which is only interested in those parts of the human body which can be used as either instruments of labor or which can become an extension of the machine.
So the original sin is capitalism. Anything that came before. This is why people are so against capitalism. People, even right-wingers say, it's relativism. It's not. These guys, the great Satan, they really have, they're puritanical. The great Satan is capitalism, right? Anything before them, that's like paradise on earth. So anything that's anti-capitalist, therefore, yeah, they're right there. And it doesn't matter how patriarchal it is. They're absolutely lying. They have no understanding. They don't want to get an understanding of what happened before capitalism. There was amazing patriarchalism. Man, oh man, oh man, just absolute lying.
151. She links the exploitation of women with the exploitation of slavery, colonialism, and of primary food producers, peasants.
Well, so slavery existed before European colonialism. You know, newsflash. It's incredible. The ancient Romans had it. Now, they had a certain form of colonialism, but it wasn't European capitalist colonialism or stuff like that. The capitalists in the United States shut down slavery. They were in the North. They shut it down. This is just amazing. It's just revisionist, stupid stuff.
And I don't know when it'll happen that this will replace actual history that we have now. I mean, it's, who knows?
Well, these bozos are in control in the university, you know.
I mean, how long will it be before nobody knows about the Underground Railroad and stuff like that? I mean, I remember when I was young and hearing about it, I was like, how did that work? You know, honestly, I mean, I was young and kids, they don't understand things, so I thought it was an actual railroad which was underground, kind of like a subway, and I'm like, couldn't they hear
Maybe
the trains moving?
Underneath the border. But it came up through the north, you know?
Anyway, 154. Despite its pervasiveness, racism is almost never mentioned in the international programs for food aid and agriculture development. 157. In North America and much of Europe, this racial caste system privileges light-complexioned people of Northern European ancestry. 160 to 162.
This is just a lie. There's Buttigieg or Jig or whatever. He's half Arab. He's half Maltese. Check the language out. It's Arabic, okay? And he's doing quite well. We're talking about people of Arabic ancestry, particularly Lebanese ancestry. They've done well. Privilege. You know, Obama, they had half a black guy as he's just half black ancestry as president of the United States. When you go other places in the world, you know, like here's in Egypt. Said Anwar Sadat was like half Sudanese, and they'd call him black, and that wasn't a compliment. That's in Egypt, okay? That ain't capitalist and all this sort of stuff. To understand, it's all around the world. I knew this one communist who was telling me, man, oh man, he wasn't a fan of the Maoists, and he was saying you should hear what happens to black exchange students in China. They had a problem. And what he said is the most racist society in the world. Now understand, this is a guy from India, Indian ancestry, South Asian ancestry, and he's a communist. He's saying the most racist society in the world is not the American. It's the England. No, not England. German. No, not Japanese. So, yeah, this is just a lie.
160 to 162. In 1910, African American owned 16 million acres of farmland. By 1997, fewer than 20,000 black farmers owned just 2 million acres of land. The rate of black land loss has been 2 times that of white land loss. According to USDA 2012 Census of Agriculture, 8% of U.S. farmers are of color and half are owners of land. Their farm share is growing, particularly among Latinos, who now number over 67,000 farmers. 163. White food workers have an average yearly income of $25,024. I'm just going to see how much time I have left. Oh, I still have some time. Okay, we'll talk about this. Workers of color earn only $19,349 a year. Of the 47 million people living below the poverty line in the U.S., less than 10% are white, while 27% are African American, 26% are Native American, 25.6% are Latinos, and 11.7% are Asian Americans. Nearly half of African Americans and 42% of Latinos are obese. 192. Biofortified crop varieties have been called the new miracle seeds. They contain micronutrients. So you might have heard of golden rice. It got a lot of media coverage, not favorably. It had higher beta carotene. It was primarily funded, supported by Rockefeller Foundation and Syngenta. DuPont works with the nonprofit Africa Harvest Biotech Foundation International. Monsanto donates to the Cassava Plus program of the Donald Danforth Center, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is the biggest philanthropic donor of biofortification programs, having committed more than $160 million. 193. In 2005, the World Bank started the Business Alliance for Food Fortification. Chaired by Coca-Cola, the partnership includes Nestle, Heinz, Ajinomoto, I don't know what that is, Danone, and Unilever. 197. In the U.S., 40% of food is wasted. Excuse me. Larger households waste less per person than smaller households. Less food is lost in low-income households. Young people waste more than older people, but he says adults waste more food than children. And this seems strange to me because knowing women who've had children, they've always told me, I never cook for myself anymore because the kids won't eat what I cook for them, so then I have to eat it. So kids waste, the mom cleans up after them.
Yeah, that's they're comparing apples and oranges. You know, adults are responsible for the stuff in the fridge that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The children are bringing it home.
Responsible for
yeah,
that?
Exactly. So anyway, it's kind of ridiculous. And he says Hispanic households in the U.S. waste 25% less food than non-Hispanics. And what I would say to that is that then my guess is that Hispanic households have more people in them. So that's automatically when I'm looking large households waste less per person than blah blah blah. Then I'm going, okay, they're having too many kids. Honestly.
Now that's just if you have more than 2 kids.
If you have
it's
more,
too many.
it's too many.
It's not like Paulina's saying,
No.
hey, they should have fewer kids and
No.
they should have the same number on
of
average
children as other families. That's it. So for the average U.S. household of 4, food waste translates to an estimated $1,350 to $2,275 per year. Okay, and 208. Traditional practice of polycultures, companion planting, increases agriculture's net primary productivity. 3 hectares planted with mixed maize, beans, and squash yields far more than a hectare of each maize, beans, and squash, and that's true. And anybody can do that. That's they call those the 3 sisters. They're good to plant together, but you got to look at what different kinds of beans you're growing, because you want something that's going to grow up the corn. And because the squash, the leaves are going to cover the ground, the corn's going to grow up vertically, and the beans are going to, if you grow a bush bean, well, that's not going to work out for you.